Back at Talladega Superspeedway, we are under yellow once again, this for the 4th time today. And at these speeds, it doesn't take much at all to have a problem. And there's a 25 car of 31-year-old David Gilliland. And here's what happened to him just a moment ago.
Well, it looked like David had thoughts. He had a push from the 33 car of Tony Stewart, and he had thoughts of going around Casey Mears, the leader, on the outside. But Tony was just basically faking him out and went to the inside, and then David tried to cover that spot and just wasn't there for him to get back down.
Yeah, that's a risky move when you pull down in front of somebody that's coming like that. And, you know, it might, especially at this point of the race, it might have been better just to stay up a lane than to risk something to getting clipped. But this is a fairly aggressive move by Tony. He's kind of pushing him up through there and trying to go for that spot. And I think Dave Burns, you've got more on Tony Stewart.
That's right, Andy. Been monitoring his radio, and he said right after that, he said, David can't just come down and try to cover that position every time he doesn't want me to pass him. So you guys have kind of called it right. Tony stuck his nose in there, and David was trying to block.
Yeah, it looks like he learned a hard lesson right there, Dave. It's, you know, that's just kind of this kind of racing. It takes years sometimes to figure out how to do it, and he got a good lesson there.
Yeah, you're a little aggravated as a driver that you thought that you had that push from the car behind you, that you were going to go take the lead, and the next thing you know, he's kind of made a fake to you, and he's trying to cover that inside then, and you try to get back there to block it. And again, with these rules and things, yeah, he would. It's easy to sit here and say now would have been better off to have waited and tried to make that move again later, lost what spots.
All right, here pit stops become the order of the day under this caution flag as they head down pit road at 55 miles per hour. Mike Massaro.
And Mike Bliss on pit road. Team car on Armando Fitz saying the car is good, but they don't have third gear. That's going to be a problem on this restart. Watch the 22 as we go back to green. 4 tires. Jamie.
Well, Mike, Kevin Harvick is in. He said the 14 of Kyle Kristoff, the 42 of Juan Pablo Montoya are pushing him in the wrong direction. He needs to get around them and get up to Tony Stewart to do some drafting. Dave?
Speaking of Tony, Jamie, 4-tire change, no chassis adjustment, but they are going to put a patch of bare bond tape on the right front of that car where he rubbed on the 25. Alan.
You see Casey Mears already gone, just right side tires and a top off of fuel. He pitted from the lead. He will hold the lead off the set of stops.
All right, pit stops are completed here at Talladega after the caution involving the 25 car of David Gilliland. By the way, who will start on the outside front row alongside Jeff Gordon for Sunday's Nextel Cup event here at Talladega. We'll go green when we come back.
Just trying to keep it in.
Well, let's look again now at the race highlights. It has been action-packed at Talladega. These are brought to you by Holiday Inn. It started early. And Brad Doherty, Martin Truex had won 3 in a row. He suffered the damage on this incident.
Yeah, he really did. And like Jeff Burton said earlier, it's all been miscalculations. All of the accidents we've seen thus far have been just inches away from not happening.
This one, the most severe. The number 5 car, driven by Kyle Busch, who's done everything but win a NASCAR Busch race this year. And then the flames. And everybody had to hold their breath. But as the fellows upstairs have told you, the safest race cars in the world. He'll get out and walk away from this horrifying appearing accident. But he will not be returning. He's free to leave. Junior's not jumping in that car, folks. And then you talk about got to trust your spotter. Watch this with Regan Smith. The hood comes up. He cannot see the track. He's virtually blinded as they take him on into the pits. They yank that hood off. He's back on the track. Now, Brad, let me ask you now about Tony Stewart, who's involved in another incident, the little faking and diving here with David Gilliland.
Yeah, David Gilliland tried to come back down and cover that spot. Kind of a similar accident he had with Kyle Busch earlier. Tony Stewart's been very aggressive. He's marching to the front. If you see him coming, give him some room.
Let's check in quickly with Dave.
And Brent, I want you to listen to some radio from Tony Stewart. You kind of get the feeling from the cockpit of everything that's happened. They're coming back on pit road, by the way, because they have a bad vibration in that 33 car. So they're going to do some more work on that car. Right front fender damage we talked about when they were tightening the lugs. But listen to this radio. Listen to Tony, what he's saying.
Choppy. I mean, it makes me look like I'm dumping everybody, and I'm not.
And he feels badly about that because earlier when Kyle Busch wrecked so badly, he was involved in that. But so was the 42 car. And that's where Tony wasn't completely culpable. He kept checking. Hey, is Kyle Busch okay? He felt badly, but, you know, nothing really that he wanted to get involved in. Same thing with the 25. Just felt like he was protecting his territory.
All right, thank you. And Dale Jarrett, let me ask you, you've been where Tony Stewart's been many, many times when a car begins to move out and you begin to take the spot away. Did Tony do what ordinarily most veteran drivers would do, or should he have backed off a little bit?
No, I can't say that you can make a case for both guys. Should David said, okay, I made a mistake that time, I'll drop back here and come back. And could Tony have backed out and given David that spot back? Certainly they could have, but that's what makes them both race drivers and very competitive drivers, because they don't want to give up that spot. But, I can't see anything wrong with what happened right there. That's racing, and what people have to understand, we're sitting here watching it on TV, and it's very easy to critique it and criticize someone and say they should have done this or done that. You have to understand, these cars are traveling over 190 miles an hour. You're making a decision in a split second, and these things are just going to happen with this type of racing.
Well, one thing I have to do, I have to agree with Tony Stewart, what he said a while ago on the radio. It does look like he's been dumping these guys. It really does.
Yeah, it does that. And, you know, there are days that you just seem like that you're in the middle of everything that's going on, and certainly with what happened earlier in the week with the starting with his radio show, you know, things just kind of build up. But again, these things are just going to happen. I do want to bring up a point, Andy, back to our conversation at the start of this show, that hanging back there is not too bad of an idea. These guys have been running second, been in a bad spot.
Yeah, I knew you were going to bring that up.
All right, let's see who's the next one up front that may get a tap somewhere, somehow. As we go back to green flag racing, 57 laps to go, 60 in the books here at Talladega Superspeedway. In the Aaron's 312 and Casey Mears at the front of the field.
You know, we've seen great racing already, and we still have 57 laps of probably the best racing we're going to see all day to go. And it's just incredible. I don't think that right now, you have to say that Casey Mears has an excellent car. He's come from the back a couple of different times to get to the front as we see another challenge for the lead.
Everything starts out single file, nice and easy. The next thing you know, they don't hardly make a lap, and they start forming 2 and 3 lines.
Well, another one of the Joe Gibbs cars going to the high side. That's Eric Almirola. Yeah. The young man who sat on the pole at Daytona, first ever driver of Cuban descent to win a pole for a major NASCAR event. Very proud of that, he told me.
He was going for the lead, and another lesson learned. Now he comes across the line at about 7th place. So these are things that are just going to happen. He had such a good run. He thought he had that push that could get him to the front. And now he's going to have to look at battling his way back, and he's not getting any help as you see him still falling back.
It's like he slotted into a little hole there on the bottom. If that outside line ever gets organized, though, it just comes charging to the front. Here we see one trying to organize with Stephen Wallace, it looks like, heading them up.
All right, by the way, the last set of pit stops, we had a couple of cars that tires roll away, the 7 and the 21. Here's a 21 of Kevin Harvick, and they have a tire roll away during the pit stop. And as there you see one rolling out on the... And he had to go to the end of the longest line as they go back and pick up that tire.
Yeah, that was kind of like a receiver missing a perfect pass there, you know. They got the tire back over there, but it hit the wall and came back.
Yeah, that won't be too big of a penalty for Harvick here when we're talking about Talladega and the draft, the way it works. It won't take him long to get back up front.
All right, the 24 is Casey Mears. You see his speed there. And Juan Pablo Montoya behind him, and Steve Wallace on the outside. He's got the high line, and DJ, that has been the preferred line. Wallace in the 66, and behind him the 16 is Greg Biffle.
Yeah, but he's going to have that help. You see, Steve Wallace has a very good car, but Greg Biffle right now is not close enough to push him up there. So we're going to see the shorter way around be the preferred line right now. And so you see these top 3 cars with Casey Mears, Juan Pablo Montoya, and Clint Boyer making their way back because Greg Biffle wasn't close enough to push Stephen Wallace on up there. As these outside lines get lined up a little bit better and a little bit tighter, then we'll see them go back to the front.
As we check in the leaders' pits with Alan.
Doc, just talking some fuel strategy with Chad Walter, Casey Mears' crew chief. He says they are short of the finish on fuel. As a matter of fact, everybody I've checked with down the turn 1 into pit road will have to stop again for at least 7, maybe 6 laps of fuel to the finish. The question will be tire strategy. Mears took just right sides on that pit stop, but I've already heard one driver, Carl Edwards, talk about the fact that as this race wears on, the handling is becoming more of a factor than they expected, and he might want tires on his final pit stop, whereas crew chief was thinking maybe they would just get gas then.